Hi guys, how are you? This is an extract. This is an extract from my book, Escape Velocity Extended, written by Damien Leech. Copyright Damien Leech. PJ Rourke, PJ Rourke, journalist. PJ Rourke, 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 PJ Rourke. PJ Rourke, journalist, is now dead. I don't know how he died. I think it's very suspicious that PJ Rourke, journalist, is dead. I don't know how he died. This is an extract. 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 This is an extract from my book Escape Velocity Extended, written by Damien Leech. I am Damien Leech. This is an extract from my book. And it goes, it's from the middle of the book. If you want to buy it, it's called Escape Velocity Extended, which is published on Kobo. And it goes, this is from the middle of the book. Then I went back to Navan. Then I went back to Navan, where my family live, which is basically my hometown after Donegal. Then I went back to Navan yet again. I was there with no job and no girlfriend. I'd run up a bill of $10,000 in the hospital in Miami. VHI sent me a check for €5,000. I looked at the check. I went to the bank and checked my account. There was €5,000 in my bank account. I jumped for joy. I went to the Palace nightclub in Navan and I had a few drinks. I tried to score but got nowhere. I left, jumped into a taxi, and I headed for Dublin Airport. I bought a flight to New York. 3 hours later, I took off. The flight took 7 hours. I had a few drinks on the plane. When I arrived, I took a taxi into Manhattan. I went into the Crown Plaza Hotel and checked in. I took a shower and ordered a steak. I went into the bar. I was hoping to meet an American girl, but instead I met an English girl. My heart sank with depression, and depression started to set in. I ordered a straight whiskey and got drunk. The English girl eventually left. I looked down the bar and saw a beautiful blonde girl. I went over to her. I started talking to her, but she started crying and but she started saying all the wrong things. She started crying, and I started crying about 9/11. She left. Now I was pissed and frustrated, so I decided to go to a strip club. I told the taxi man to take me to the nearest strip club. When I arrived, I was so drunk they wouldn't let me in, but advised me to go to Flashdance strip club opposite the David Letterman show. I went into Flashdance. I was so drunk. A Russian girl came over to me. She started to dance for me. I just kept handing out the 50s. I spent about $2,000 in the strip club that night. I woke up the next day and checked my wallet. I had $50 left. I was up shit creek. I went to the bank and tried to take out some money, but it wouldn't give me any. I phoned back to Ireland. They told me that there was a limit on my account of $350 per day. I waited until 8 p.m. US time and took out $350. I then downgraded to a hostel. I wasn't feeling well again. I went to hospital. They gave me a Lansbury. I went to see the site of 9/11. I nearly burst into tears. It's also sad. Who would attack the Americans like that? It broke their hearts, and it broke my heart to be there. I jumped in a taxi and told him to bring me to Wall Street. I went into a bar and started drinking. I stayed there till late. About 2 a.m. I took a taxi to the main fiddler Times Square. I tried to score but got nowhere. The next day I got up and went for another drink. I really wasn't feeling well. I decided that it was time to go home. I took a taxi at the JFK airport and flew home. The air hostesses were very rude to me when I stepped off the plane in Dublin. When I went into the bar at Dublin Airport, the barman was very rude to me. Also, they kept banging the coffee machine very loudly. I sat up to the bar and there was an inverted phallic symbol on the bar. When I got home, my family were raging with me for spending the insurance money. They wouldn't let me stay in the family home, so I went to stay in a youth hostel in Dublin. I stayed there for a month. St. Patrick's Day was coming up and the youth hostel was full, so I had nowhere to stay. I was homeless. My last hope was staying with my granny May in Donegal. I was sure that she wouldn't turn me away. I was very sick, homeless, and had no money. When I was on the bus, my mother phoned me and told me that I couldn't stay with my granny, but that she had booked me a hostel for me. I stayed at the hostel for 2 nights and then called into my granny's. Everyone was being so rude to me. When I got into my granny's, my mother and granny left, so I was on my own in the house. I put on CNN, and CNN, they said, "We have no idea where you are." It made me reach out. I phoned the Irish Times and explained the situation. Whatever the Irish Times did made my mum and my granny change their minds. They said that I could stay with them, but I wasn't feeling well at all. On the third night I called them. I was so sick. The stress was killing me. The ambulance arrived and took me to Letterkenny Psychiatric Hospital. I stayed there for a few hours until the morning. Then they got me a taxi to take me to St. Pat's Hospital in Dublin, 200 miles. The taxi cost €200. When I arrived, I saw the doctor and settled it. The doctors wanted me to take injections to fix so because I always stopped taking my tablets. The doctor started me on 80 milligrams of Vicks. I started getting awful panic attacks. I got extremely paranoid and thought that people were trying to kill me. When I got out of St. Pat's, I stopped taking the Pixel, but the panic attacks didn't go away. Had I been permanently brain damaged? I started taking Lancet, but it wasn't long before I stopped taking it. Joined a surf club in Dublin. I found off the internet that they were having a meeting on Neil's pub in the centre. I took a bus to Dublin and crashed into Barnacle's house. I mounted in my room. There was a beautiful German girl in one of the bunks. I got chatting to her, invited her to come along to the service. Off we went to O'Neill's pub. We had a great chat. Then we left and went home to Temple Bar Bar. I went back to the Temple Bar Bar. We started kissing. She told me that she was bringing a package to London. I was taken aback. Was it drugs or a bomb or something? But I blocked it out of my mind because I was falling in love with her. Went back to the house. We didn't sleep together. The next day off, she went to London, where she lived. We kept in touch with the phone. She invited me over to London. I had booked a boat to Ally and took a train down to London. It was Christmas and it was snowing. The train pulled in at Euston Station in London city centre. Mary met me at the station. We went back to her apartment. We bought wine and steak. We cuddled up and watched TV. When we went to bed, we didn't have sex, but we did everything else. The next day, she told me she's going for dinner with her girlfriend's boyfriend and daughter. I got paranoid. Was she going to cheat? I joked with her, trying to find out the truth. But she replied that she was going for the real meal. I was shocked. The next day, she went for dinner. I stayed in my brother's apartment. I phoned her 12:30 a.m. and she was home. I took a taxi over to the app, but I was very angry. I bought a bottle of James. Was sat on the sofa drinking. She kept coming out of her room, asking me to come to bed. I told her I was just thinking. The room started turning. I was so drunk. I vomited on the carpet. I went to bed at 7 a.m. When I woke up, I heard Mary's son running up and down the corridor. I said to Mary, I got up and went into the sitting room where he'd gotten sick the night before. Mary was sitting on the back of the sofa. She asked me to leave. I did. I was in shock. I took a taxi over to my brother's apartment. I called Mary later. She told me that alcohol was destroying my life. She told me that she would marry me if I stopped drinking. So when I got back to Ireland, I stopped drinking. Then Mary broke it off with me. God was good. I kept phoning her to try to get through, but she wouldn't answer. I was very depressed. I checked back into St. Pat.